Welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Schaefer. We've been very busy here, so it's been a little while since I've gone to talk about a case, but today I'm excited to talk about another case that is really important and has a lot of relevance to what a lot of you out there watching are wondering about and going through today when it comes to prosecutorial discretion and getting your case closed or dismissed, and when you should and shouldn't. So before I begin, a quick reminder, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching, so that you don't miss any more of our lives. And if you do find this video helpful, please click that share button so that you can share all this hopefully useful information with others. So today's case is about a client who's a native of Benin and a citizen of Benin and Burkina Faso. He entered the U.S. in 2018 with a B2 visitor visa, and a little after 1 year, so he did not meet the 1-year filing deadline, he filed for asylum without an attorney. And he came and hired us after he went to his asylum interview and was referred to the immigration court. When he first came to us, we reviewed everything that had been submitted and why they referred him. And then we gave him a list of evidence and said, look, this is, and I'll talk about the case in a little, this is a little different of a case than we've handled before, in that, good morning, Lambert. Thank you for watching. It was just a different type of claim that we've never, I don't know how to describe it, in that other than we would not have likely filed it had this client came to us first before filing it with this organization. So, but we said to him, you got a lot of holes here. You got, number one, you got the 1-year issue. So it wasn't that long after the 1 year, but you need to have one of the narrow exceptions, or yes, you can get withholding, but you cannot get asylum. So we weren't really able to overcome that. Then the second, really the major problem in this case was that he was a native and he was a citizen of 2 countries. So his claim was mentioned both, but it was mainly about issues in Burkina Faso. But he had been traveling he had been living there for 20 years and traveling back and forth between the countries for years. And that makes it hard to, so even if he left Benin for a reason, because he has threats, but for 20 years he lived in Burkina Faso and went back and forth, it's hard to say that you're not going to be able to return to one of those 2 countries. So whenever you have citizenship of 2 countries, it's important to remember, if you're going to file for asylum, you have to prove that you can't go back to both. It doesn't have to be the same reason, but you still have to prove that. I'm trying to move my hair so you can see our fancy new, I got us vests, very excited about, with our new logo. Anyways, so when I say this was an odd claim, I think maybe it was the language used, but essentially in Benin, he said, well, my father was head of this, even though he was Catholic, he was also head of this fetish cult. And we came to learn they meant more that they believed in things like voodoo, and that there was this expectation that once his dad died, he would have to take over, but he didn't believe in that. And when his dad died, the family was saying, if you don't, you have to do this, believe they were threatening him, blah, blah, blah. So he fled to Burkina Faso, where he met his wife, had children, and he became a successful businessman. In fact, so successful that he attracted attention of the ruling party, who wanted him to join their cause, but he turned them down. And after he turned them down, he said he started to get threats. And his car was actually set on fire while he was in it. He does have burns. I do believe him that happened. So once that happened, he realized he had a visa to the U.S. already, and he realized that he wasn't going to be safe there. But then he was still afraid to return to Benny permanently, because his cousin took over, and his cousin was going to retaliate against him if he were to return. So I already mentioned one problem was the dual nationality. The next problem that we have here is that it doesn't really fit neatly into an asylum claim. So you got two pieces. Let's start with the Burkina Faso. He said he was claiming that he was considered a foreign businessman. And so he was saying, so in order to prove asylum, you have to prove that you're a victim of past persecution or of a well-founded fear of future persecution, based on one of 5 protected categories: religion, race, nationality, ethnicity, and particular social group. Did I say political? Religion, ethnicity, ethnicity, nationality, tribe goes together. Political, I just got myself confused. Point is, particular social group, there's 5 of them. I got them all in there, but some of them overlapped. Anyways, so a foreign businessman, well, part of the problem was he wasn't foreign. He was a citizen of the country, so that doesn't work. The second thing is that businessmen in general, or even foreign businessmen, isn't really a particular social group, because you have to prove that you're identifiable as a business owner, and a successful business owner, and you have to prove that that this group is a known group and it gets targeted. But what's really hard with these situations in particular is that is to be able to show that you're not being targeted because people know you have money, which is considered general crime. They're targeting you based on one of the protected asylum grounds. And when you're talking about like someone attacking you for owning a business and things like that, you're going to have to be able to deal with those questions. And he couldn't make that link. He had probably had every reason to believe in it. And I actually don't have a doubt that the people who attacked him were part of this ruling party that were mad at him for imputing. Basically, they imputed a political opinion, the political opinion being that he disagreed with them and that they were going to, threaten him and his family until he agreed to join. But again, you have to be able to show that. So if you don't know who the people are because they didn't identify themselves, they weren't wearing official clothing or anything like that, then you have to prove this, because you have to prove it's government, or that it's a group the government is unable or unwilling to control. So we had that piece of the problem missing, or piece of the puzzle missing. And I forgot to also mention at the time that this happened, Burkina Faso had a lot going on. So whenever you're in a country that has like a civil war going on or a lot of violence going on, it brings into question even more why someone might attack you. Because again, general crime, general terrorism, things like that, unfortunately, do not qualify for asylum. So we said that, okay, well, why can't, we have to look at the Benny claim now, why he can't go back to Benny. And we had another problem there, because it was technically a religious claim in that he wanted to be Christian and not practice this, one of those traditional religions. That's what it was, that is common in Africa still, and that he was going to be retaliated against by his family if he didn't comply. The problem is that his family's not the government, and there was no evidence that the government was unable or unwilling to control it. And, these are things that we tell the client in advance to get us. And sometimes this stuff doesn't exist. A lot of these things are considered family problems, but so you don't go to the police necessarily, or the police, if you do, they won't help. We have that all the time, but in a situation like this, he would have had to prove because he had been in and out of the country so many times. You could say there's an argument he couldn't stay permanently, but where was he all those times? Why was he safe all those times? You have to be able to to prove that there's nowhere else in the country you can go and be safe. So that's another piece that we were missing. So after all of that, we had a lot of discussions. I spoke with the attorney for the Department of Homeland Security, and I told our client, look, you're in a very fortunate situation. We think your asylum claim is very weak. We don't know if you even meet all the eligibility requirements. It's going to be really hard to prove, and we don't want you to have an order of deportation, but you're lucky because right now they are offering prosecutorial discretion, which means that they're going to agree to dismiss your case without prejudice and basically let you stay here without status. If as long as you are okay with that. Otherwise, we have to go forward with your claim. And I'm not much of a gambler myself. I don't know if you are, but if we go forward and gamble, I think we're going to lose. So basically, we also explained to our client, you entered with a visa, which is good, in your own name, which is good. So were you to become eligible for an immigration benefit in the future, because he had mentioned he had a U.S. citizen girlfriend now, and he already had gotten divorced. Well, if things work out and you marry your U.S. citizen girlfriend, now you're preserving your ability to then file for a green card. But if we go forward and you get that order of deportation or removal today, then you can forget about going forward based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, because now you have a hurdle you have to overcome, which is removing the order of removal, which is not an easy thing to do. And remember, because he had to prove he didn't file within the 1 year, he couldn't get asylum, only withholding a removal, which meant that he had a higher burden of proof. So instead of proving it was more likely than not that he would be harmed if he returned to both countries, he had to prove that by clear and convincing evidence, which is a much higher standard. And the fact that there are all these holes and a higher standard combined told us your best option is going to be to have the case dismissed. And again, DHS didn't promise us. They said they'll review it. And the fact is, our client had no negatives. He had no arrest or criminal history. Yeah, like I said, he entered with a visa. I think that was really all the factors in this case. There just wasn't much. And you have to bring up the U.S. citizen girlfriend, which I've had to do in other cases to get them dismissed. That they had to know that there was a possibility the person would be able to apply for something in the near future. In his case, they just cared that he wasn't a threat to public safety or national security, and he had no run-ins with the law, and he entered the country legally, so they knew who he was. At first the client, when he came in this morning, even though we had explained it, he was a little confused. Understandably, this is a very confusing thing. He's scared that he's going to be literally deported, which was not going to happen. And I had explained to him that by his case being dismissed, no more court. If they ever wanted to put you back into court proceedings, they'd have to start all over, all the way from the beginning, which they're not going to do. They wouldn't be dismissing it if they were planning to do it. And again, it opens the door for other relief. But it's important to really understand the factors involved in this decision, whether you want to go forward with your case or have your case dismissed. You want to have an experienced immigration attorney who's experienced not just in immigration, but particularly deportation defense, particularly with asylum, because we were able to judge his claim to the extent where we were able to say, if you go forward with this claim, we don't think it's going to end well. It's not our decision, it's the client's decision, but that's why you came to us, to give you this advice. It's not like it's all positive if your case is dismissed. There are some negatives, like technically you're not going to be able to, you lose your work permit, or at least you have it until it expires. You're not going to be able to renew it unless you end up becoming eligible for another immigration benefit. So that's something that you have to factor in. But the fact is, you do get to stay here. The government is not coming after you anytime soon. We see this prosecutorial discretion, the way they're handling right now. We're treating it as a limited time offer because the government can change their mind at any time, especially if the president does change in a couple of years. So it's important to, if you get that offer, you jump on that offer. And then it also shows the importance of using a lawyer to file your asylum claim from the beginning. Because if this guy had come to us from the beginning, he did start with the company or the organization before the 1 year filing deadline, but they didn't file it until after we would have filed it on time. That's number one. Number two, we probably wouldn't have filed this case to begin with, and he never would have had to deal with deportation proceedings. He would have been an overstay, and that's it. Which now that he would have been in the same position this entire time that he is now, which is he's here without status. The government knows, but basically they're turning a blind eye. And we didn't know that this was going to be the outcome of his case, because we didn't know at the time when he hired us that they were going to be dismissing cases so easily. And that changed the whole course of it. And that was a huge for this client. And that's why you want to use a lawyer to begin with, because he should never have been in this position in the first place. And we really know what qualifies for asylum claim and what doesn't. And it's not that simple. It's not that just because you were harmed in your country, that's not the end of the inquiry. So I wanted to talk about this case today, because I wanted to talk about what we've been up to here a little bit. Just super busy. We got some new branding going on. So we're trying to do a bunch of stuff here to make our clients' lives easier and our lives easier. And I also want to talk about this case because I see this happening a lot. We can do a lot of consults. We have a lot of clients with old cases that, again, we didn't file from the beginning, but they came to us after, and like, you have a right to representation, we'll help you, but we're going to tell you, like, these are what your realistic options are. So, this is a good example of how important it is to make sure your client understands what their options are, realistically, what their odds are, what you recommend, why you recommend it, and then what status and position they're going to be in, depending on what option they choose to take. So all of you out there, if you do have a case in court and you think that it might be a good case to have dismissed, or you're wondering if your asylum claim is strong or dismissed, or contact information scrolling across the bottom of the screen, please do not hesitate to contact us. You can contact us for any of your immigration needs, of course. Otherwise, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching. And if you found this video helpful, know someone who may, please hit that share button to pass along the information. I hope to be doing another video sooner than the time period between the last two. But, busy's good. That means we're doing a lot of good things for a lot of good people out there, and we hope to continue to do that. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.